following program may contain strong language and brief nudity. But don't get your hopes up. After all, this is public access TV. Major funding for this program was provided by the City of Austin Cultural Initiatives Program. Additional funding was provided by ADAPT of Texas and AmeriGroup. This program was made possible from the support of VSA Texas.
Hi folks, I'm Gene.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the
Gene and Dave Show.
Boy, Dave, I'm excited today. We're talking about employment. And employment is important because it gives us money. And with money, we can do all sorts of things. I can travel. You just bought a new house.
You know, our nation's president said that employment is the key factor to this country. So let's feature employment here on the Gene and Dave Show. Let's talk about it. Let's spend some time.
Let's do. Who were the first people we talked to? Seton Healthcare Family. Wow, some great folks over there. Ellen Deckerow helped us set up some interviews over there. Really friendly folks. We talked with also some people from DARS. And DARS is... what is DARS again?
The Department of Assistive and Rehabilitation Services.
There you go. Yeah. They help all kind of folks with disabilities find employment. And if you need things, like assistive technology to work, they may buy that for you. And if you're not quite ready for work, maybe they can help you get trained for it, either, say, with more schooling or some kind of training program. So there's all kinds of help out there.
Yeah, I got a lot of help through DARS when I was going to college and figuring out my career paths and the things that I could do, and then also helping find funding for that.
Well, yeah.
To be able to pay for it.
Very helpful. Now, the folks at Seton, we interviewed, Nedra Clayton Westbrook. And now Nedra is a senior organizational development consultant and board certified job coach. We don't know what that means either. From what I understand, they won't print her business card anymore because it takes up too much ink. But we talked with the folks at DARS, Susan Fairbrother and Lucinda Edwards.
Yeah, they were all very helpful on finding out kind of what steps to take if you're deciding on whether you want to work or whether you can work, or even some things about what you really want to do, and then taking it step by step from one level to the next. What was the first step that we started with, Gene?
Well, we started with job readiness, and a lot of people don't know if they're or think they're job ready, but they're not. To be job ready, you've got to be able to be on time every day. Every day, you've got to be able to know how to dress right, how to interview, that sort of thing. So
let's see what the experts have to say.
All right, here we go.
Job readiness.
How do I know I'm job ready? What kind of skills or talents do I need to have before I'm ready for the workplace?
Well, one of the things that I recommend, and I recommend this for all associates, is or all potential employees that are interested in working at Seton, is to research the company, have an understanding of our organization and where the opportunities are for a particular skill. And after you research, make sure that you have your resume ready, that you have and are able to articulate your work experience and transferable skills. Transferable skills are the skills that you have that would be applicable to working in a healthcare environment, and being able to articulate that with someone that may call for a phone screen.
When a person first comes in, we're getting their information about them and their work history also, to find out the jobs that they've done before, looking at the disability to find out, are they able to do the same job or go back to the same employer? And so we also take in consideration the consumer's choice of what is it that they actually want to do. And we make sure it's a great fit for them. One of the services that can be provided is work adjustment training. And that's a program that we can send someone to for them to learn work skills, working with an employer, to get used to getting up on time, coming to work, and working with people in various environments. It's also giving them a chance to come out of their individual environment. And that's an opportunity where we can see what can they do in a work setting.
The nice part about this program is it really is tailored and customized for each individual depending on what their need is. Even becoming job ready has a lot of elements in it that each person may or may not have, such as transportation, child care. There are a lot of issues involved in becoming job ready.
But I'm glad we were able to interview the folks from Seton as well. It's Seton's one of the largest employers in Austin. I asked Ellen Deckerow how many people worked at Seton. She said about half. But I think the real answer's closer to more than 12,000. Next thing we're going to learn about is resume do's and don'ts.
All right, so we've determined that we're job ready, and we're ready. We found a place to go to interview. We've got the perfect job in mind. Now we've got to get that resume polished up and ready to go.
Absolutely. Now, the purpose of the resume isn't to get you a job, although it helps. The purpose of the resume is to get you an interview. Let's see what these folks say about writing resumes. In terms of resumes, what are some of the do's and don'ts? What should you put on a resume and what should you leave off? And I suppose the same with an application.
Well, let's start with talking about the resume. And the first thing I would say with any potential applicant is to be organized. In other words, for your resume, make sure that you have your references listed, make sure that you have your job history information, make sure that you have a good summary or overview of your qualifications. Remember, a resume is really that overview of your qualifications and your accomplishments. It's really not meant to be a biography about yourself. So ensure that you've got everything ready and accessible as you put the resume together. In addition to that, there are 3 types of resumes. You have a functional, a chronological, and a combination. And depending on your level of experience, you may want to go with a chronological, which is really focusing on your most recent employment history. The functional really focuses more on your experience and does not highlight as much of recent employment history. So, for example, if you've had some gaps in your employment, you may want to go with a functional resume. And then a combination, which I tend to like as well, because you can have a blend of the functional and the chronological.
So as a coach, what's the biggest mistake that you see people making on their resume?
On the resume, I'd say the biggest mistake is that when they're putting their resume together, they are not putting the resume in a format where it's more the verbs. They want to put so much into a resume. I've seen resumes that are 3 and 4 pages, and they put too much detail instead of just putting those key phrases and using those verbs to articulate their experience. Remember, it should be easy to read. It should highlight your qualifications and your accomplishments so that you can go right to it and tell a particular hiring manager why they should hire you as they look at that resume.
What we do is we assist consumers with resume writing, with critiquing their resumes. We ask them to come at least with a resume in something that we can either put a resume together with. As we go out and look at various websites to see what employers are looking for now in a resume, what's the correct way. We found a lot of information on corporate America websites, and then also working with employers in our community. They no longer want to see request for reference at the bottom. They no longer want to see an objective at the top. They consider that's just kind of a waste of space. They want to see the highlights of people's work skills at the top of the resume because they only spend a couple of minutes looking at a resume, so they're not going to read the whole entire thing. And so we also practice with them with their resume on interviewing skills. We teach them also about the do's and don'ts, what to add. We look at if they have a long work history, it's so they don't age themselves. We have them to not, we take off all the dates off a resume also. And so it's just about your work history. We have a lot of younger people in Job Club. And so we look at what they've done and we keep the dates on, and then their GPAs. We keep on there if it's a high score.
Information. And you know, Dave, I found that how you word a resume can make all the difference in the world. For example, if you're a horse thief, you don't want to put on your resume that you're a horse thief. You want to say something like, you're an expert in equestrian asset acquisition and relocation. There you go. Makes all the difference in the world. And if you did time in a federal prison, you don't want to say you were an inmate. You say you devoted several years of your life to a government facility. Makes all the difference.
That it does.
So, and also don't be shy on your resumes. For example, I was working in New Mexico, and one day I went into my boss and I said, you know, it would really be great if we had a database that did this and this and this. And he said, now remember this, Andy? I remember it. He says, well, Gene, that would be great, but we don't pay you to be a programmer. If you want to do that, you got to do it on your own. So I went and bought a book, taught myself programming, and a couple of months later I was able to present them with a database that I developed on my own. And later on, I won some kind of an award for it. Now, the reason that's important is because I was able to put it on my resume, and I could highlight that when I go in for the interview as well. And employers aren't looking for good employees, they're looking for great employees. They're looking for people that shine. So anything like that would be helpful as well. Also later on, I applied for a fellowship. I was one of 10 people that got one. This was a Switzer Research Fellowship, and I was the only non-PhD to get one that year. So anything like that you put on your resume to make you stand out. Now, we've got the resume, we're ready for the interview. Let's find out about interview do's and don'ts. Can you give us some ideas on do's and don'ts for the
Sure.
interviews?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say, be punctual. That's one that's very important for all potential applicants, is to be on time. You want to dress appropriately. I generally recommend to wear formal clothes, regardless to what the job you are interviewing for entails. Always err on the positive side by wearing some formal clothes.
Mm-hmm. Even though it is Austin.
Even though it's Austin, I
Don't
know.
wear your flip-flops.
That's it.
Okay.
Don't wear jeans. Just so if you just think, regardless of what your job you are interviewing for, to always err with going more formal than on what the job may require on a daily basis. The other thing I think is important is to be personable. So it's okay to share a story as you're being interviewed. So make sure that your personality comes out. In other words, you don't want to come across as being too rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a big don't is to don't talk money during that interview. Wait until that offer is on the table to have that discussion. So don't talk money.
Job Club is an interview. We set it up every Monday. You're coming to an interview, so you have to be dressed for an interview. We talk to them about not the and well, and so they're not stuttering. We let them know that to look employer in, the interviewer in the eye. We also let them know to listen to the questions that are being asked before they jump to a question. It's just to actually listen to what the question is asking, think for a minute. If they don't understand the question, it's okay to ask them to repeat it.
Posture is very important. Body language tells a lot more than the words do, so we work a lot on that as well, and of course coming in clean and dressed properly is very important as well.
Okay.
You know, speaking of interviews, Dave, when someone like myself with a severe disability goes in for an interview, the employer's got some questions. They want to know, how is this person going to be able to accomplish all the tasks? So what I like to do is say, now I understand this job will require perhaps a lot of math, may require, I do a lot of computations right then and there, and I have to be ready for that. So what I did is I developed a notebook where I've got a programmable computer in the middle here, and then below that my HP 12C, which is a financial calculator. I've got a notebook on top here that has all the instructions for all the, calculations, so I don't forget any, and then a notepad that I can write on whatever I need to. And this way it lets the employer know this person has already thought about it, they've got a system they use, it works for them, so the employer feels more confident about the skills of this person. So it's very important you're prepared for interview questions and be able to respond in a manner that exudes confidence. Let the employer know, hey, I thought about this, I know how to do it. And the next thing, so once we've got the interviews, next thing we want to know about is how do we broach the subject of reasonable accommodations.
Let me take this.
Let's hear what our experts have to say about reasonable accommodations.
So what are reasonable accommodations, Gene?
Well, for example, I can operate a computer if I have a trackball. All computers generally have a mouse.
Oh, okay.
I just can't operate a mouse, but a trackball, that I can use. And they cost about $100. So if I let the employer know up front, oh, by the way, I'll need a trackball, it costs about $100, that's really the only accommodation I need. They're much more prone to hire me than try and figure out, oh geez, how much am I going to have to spend on this guy?
And that's a reasonable accommodation.
That would be reasonable.
Like if I need a queen size adjustable Tempur-Pedic bed in my office so that I can take my hour nap at lunchtime.
Like you do for the Gene and Dave show?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Every day.
Most employers would not consider that reasonable.
Okay.
But as long...
But let's hear from the experts on when and what to ask for as far as reasonable accommodations.
At what point do we ask for reasonable accommodation? And how do we go about doing that?
My recommendation is during the interview, in most cases there'll be a discussion on what the job requirements are, and the question will be, are you able to perform the requirements of the job? And that's a good time to ask for those accommodations.
Well, accommodations is all part of the job. The employer needs to be providing accommodations. In many circumstances, it's the ADA law. We can help them zero down or zero in on what types of accommodations they may need. Sometimes we will also provide a letter or go to the doctor and get a letter that will state that they in fact do have a disability. The doctors usually will write a script if there's some accommodation that maybe medically is needed in order for this individual to do the duties of the job.
Another reasonable accommodation that I had to ask for in a job one time was when I was working in downtown Kansas City. And they actually put me into an office on the 11th floor. One of the reasonable accommodations was fire evacuation. They actually had to purchase a chair that had tank treads on it. So in case there was a fire and I had to be evacuated, I was designated about 6 or 8 guys that were designated to come and help me that worked near me to transfer me out of my chair onto this special evacuation sled chair with treads on it to be able to get me down the 11 flights of stairs. And they had so many people scheduled to help me so that if one of them happened to be out sick or not there the day of the fire, they could come in and help. And also, they took turns on the way down the stairway at operating the machine that got me down. So that's a reasonable accommodation that not a lot of people think of, but it was there for my safety.
Well, they must have loved you to go through all that. You must be a great employee, Dave. Now, once you're on the job, DARS can provide some sort of job support. You may be having some problems adjusting the work, and they can provide some counseling to help you with that. What kind of job support does Eaton offer?
Great question. And from day one, we have what we call a new associate experience, which all associates attend. It's a full day orientation that provides an overview of our culture. We cover our initiatives such as our diversity initiatives. We also include HIPAA, CRP, which is corporate responsibility. And so we really ensure that on day one, all associates get the overview of Seton, our mission, why we're here, and then also provide some information for those associates in terms of what they're supposed to do the very next day, who they are supposed to see. So we try to make sure day one that we provide the information about Seton and what our mission is and how every associate fits into that mission.
Yeah, as far as job support, we don't ever, when the case is even closed, the individual, should they have needs on the job to help them retain that employment, are welcome to come back. We can provide post-closure services if it's a situation where they might lose their job as a result of an issue. So they're never alone. What our whole point is when they are considered successful, that all their issues are being addressed, or they have the capability now because of the services that they were provided here to be able to meet their needs.
You know, in talking about jobs, there's also something called self-employment, where you create your own job. And not all of us are cut out for that. You have to be really disciplined to do that kind of thing.
Kind of like if you wanted to go out and start your own TV show and
Exactly.
find people to help you film it and set stuff up, and also to get funding to be able to help pay for cameraman and tapes and the equipment that it takes to edit these videos.
It takes a lot of work and patience and discipline, so if you don't have that, you might not want to consider self-employment. But you know, a lot of people will think, oh, I got an idea for a product or service, and I'll just put up a web page. Well, a web page is nice, but you have to find a way to drive traffic to your web page. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to get a search engine optimization where they can have, so that when people put in a search on Google or Bing, that their web page ends up in the top 10.
Very important.
And if you don't know how to do that, folks, you may want to consider something else. Some people do capital-intensive jobs too, where they have to buy a lot of equipment to make products, and they think they can sell it themselves. If you're selling, you're not working, you're not producing products. So it's a really tough business to be in. So although self-employment's an option, and there are plenty of entrepreneur programs out there, in fact, we've got a number listed in our resources. When you look at the description for our show, still it's a tough business to be in. Now,
But you never know. You may succeed. You may actually be the next Sam Walton. So decide if that's the road for you, and then go for it.
Exactly. I'm glad you pointed that out, Dave. It's not that I'm trying to discourage people, but I want you to think twice about it. Now, when you're also considering various aspects of employment, Dave, you found a great book called Employment Options. And this is a great book for folks with disabilities, or say veterans, or people that are, say, over 50 and wanting to get back into the workforce. It's available at Bartleby Press. You can call them toll free, 1-800-953-9929. We also have their web address here and in our page summary about our show. You can actually download a sample of this book, which is great, and that'll help you to decide if you want it. But this book will teaches you how to fill out an application without sending the wrong signals. It teaches you some honest and sensible ways to handle tough situations. Gaps in employment, very important. Maybe some bad references you got. How to stand up for your rights as a job hunter under federal laws. How to craft career-changing and job-specific resumes based on a successful sample resumes that they provide. So please check them out. Download a sample of their book, and you will find it very helpful.
And lots of good stuff to help you get started on your new employment career path.
Yeah, and you really find out, going through the checklist, what kind of person am I? What kind of aptitude do I have? What jobs would really appeal to me? So there you go, folks.
And those things are really good to know, because when you do get to into that interview, those are the questions that they're going to ask you and want answered. So if you're ready for those questions, then you'll be ready and you'll land the job.
Couldn't say it better myself, Dave.
Good.
Now, for me, networking was very important.
I've got a network at home too. I've got my computer plugged into it, and I even have Wi-Fi. It goes over the air.
Not that kind of network, Dave.
Oh.
No, the kind of network where you talk to other people, you know people from other organizations, things like that. Now, networking, when you belong to other organizations, you talk to other folks. They may know job leads. They may know other employers that are familiar with the jobs that you might be looking for, and that can really cut through a lot of red tape.
So the old saying rings true. It's not what you know, but who you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had a lot of luck with that, and we'll hear a little bit more about that a little bit later. But belonging to several organizations, clubs, it can come in handy. Also, I found that if you follow the money, if you see where grants are going, maybe where there's new businesses developing. For example, here in Austin, there's been talks of a new Apple plant going up. Learn about those kind of things. That's where you can get in on the ground floor. Otherwise, you look at the ads in the paper, and you're competing with everyone in the city, and people from out of state too. So follow the money, see where that's going.
Good advice.
Speaking of working, well, you and I have got some stories to tell about work. In fact, that one you told about reasonable accommodation, wow, blew my mind. Do you want to tell your story, Dave, or you want I should start with mine about employment?
Go ahead, Gene.
All right. When I went to college, I studied education. I was looking at teaching science and math in high school. Well, I got to the part where we did student teaching, and this was years ago, not when there were dinosaurs, but it was before computers, before we had personal computers. And I needed to make lesson plans, tests, quizzes, keep track of grades, all that sort of thing. And I had to type them out. And so I did this in a typewriter. I had to take a piece of paper, get it in my mouth, put it into the typewriter, and type out whatever it was, quizzes. And if I made a mistake, I had to start over again. Because, as I say, there were no personal computers. Everything had to be typed. And I was getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. So when the student teaching ended, I knew there was no way I could go into the teaching field. And quite frankly, I wasn't sure what to do at this point, what career path to choose. And then I made the decision, rather than just look for a job, I'm going to find out where I want to live. And then once I move there, then I'll look for work. So a buddy of mine and I traveled around the southwest U.S. I figured out that Albuquerque was a great place to live in. The weather was pretty good year-round, and they had a transportation system for folks with disabilities. So I moved there and then did my job search, and my first job got it through networking from the folks, disabled vets. And they told me about a new independent living center that was starting up in Santa Fe. So I ended up applying and getting a job up there. So networking really helped there. And then after being there a couple of years, I decided I want something a little bit more. So I went back to grad school, had to move back to Albuquerque. Again, through networking, I was introduced to another employer, got a job before I was out of school, and it happened again and again. I think I got 3 jobs without even applying for them. People would call me and say, hey, we want you to work for us. And this happened because I really took a vested interest in the place I was working. I mean, I'm going to be spending 8 hours a day there at least. I may as well make it the best place I can.
Right.
And when people see that, they really appreciate it. And they'll let other employers know. So networking really helped me a lot. I want to hear more of your stories.
Sounds like it, Gene. Well, I decided when I was really young and they rolled in our first Apple IIe computer into my grade school classroom that computers were going to be the thing of the future and the way that I wanted to go. So I knew from an early age that I really wanted to do something with computers, because it was something that physically, even though being in a wheelchair, I could still do. I could still operate a computer and control it and make it do what I wanted it to do, and also use that to help other people do their jobs and what they wanted to do. So the computer programmer in me was born at a very early age. I went on there from after high school to attend Emporia State University in Emporia, Kansas, just a couple hours down the road from where I was born and raised. And after that, I landed the job in the big downtown skyscraper building in Kansas City, Missouri, at a company called DST, and it's a mutual funds company that did all the computer programming for a mutual fund market for different fund companies, and they would keep track of all their data, house it, store it, keep it both on-site and off-site. So I worked there for several years, where I learned a programming language called Smalltalk, and I still use Smalltalk today and really enjoy programming with it and setting up graphic user interfaces, or GUI, for people to be able to do their jobs quick and easily. After that, I transferred to Fort Worth, Texas, where I worked for Sprint for a while, the telecom industry. And after leaving Sprint, I went to another company called Novo One, which I currently work for, that's located in Fort Worth, and I telecommute. And I'm able to log onto my computer daily and work from home. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of been my career path. It's all been on the computer, and I really enjoy it.
So you have a real passion for this, and obviously it shows, or you wouldn't have gotten these great jobs. And the employers have to put a lot of trust in you, that you're getting your work done from home.
Sure.
And this is something you can do. We hadn't talked about it before, but telecommuting, that's what they call it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you log in at home, do whatever work you need to do, and are happy with that. But Dave has paid his dues and started off working in an office. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it certainly worked well for you.
Right. Yeah, and you worked your way. I worked my way up to be able to have the trust and confidence to be able to work from home. I started working in the office that I work for now, before moving to Austin and asking if telecommuting was a possibility. And I'd proven myself. They liked my work and said that would be just fine for me to do.
Excellent.
So Gene, while we were talking to the good folks at Seton, we also had the opportunity to, I should say, re-meet or have another discussion with Geronimo. That's how we knew about Seton, was when we first met Geronimo at a Mayor's Committee Awards banquet that the Gene and Dave show was so honored to get an award at. We decided to capitalize on the opportunity and network with some of the other folks and film some of the other folks that were there getting awards. And Geronimo had some people in his internship through Seton that were getting awards.
Yeah, now, Geronimo Rodriguez is the Vice President of Diversity and Community Outreach. What I don't get is why we couldn't get the President of Diversity and Community Outreach. We just got the Vice President.
So tell us a little bit again about your role here with Seton and
Sure.
what your job title is and
Sure.
what do you do?
Sure. My Geronimo Rodriguez. I served as the Vice President of Diversity and Community Outreach for the last 6 years. In a nutshell, our job in our area of diversity and community outreach is really to move the entire organization from recognizing diversity to institutionalizing inclusion and cultural competence in everything that we do. And we do that through 9 different strategies that are focused on whether it's talent acquisition and finding the best fit, making sure that we reflect the community we serve, to talent development, patient access, patient care, community outreach, supplier diversity, marketing, workforce development, inspiring the next generation of healthcare professionals, and then a new one around supporting medical research by ensuring that we comply with what are called federal contractor compliance requirements that now fall under our office.
Sounds like you wear a lot of hats.
It's a fun job because at the end of the day, it all starts with our mission statement. It's at the core of it is about recognizing every human being, every individual, I should say, as a human being endowed with dignity, and therefore we're compelled to treat them with respect. And that includes employment, that includes looking at individuals and seeing what their strengths, their gifts, their abilities are, and how they might contribute to providing health care for everyone here in Central Texas, whether they can afford it, whether they can, they come from different geographic areas, or whether it's just anyone here in Central Texas. It is really a great opportunity to contribute back to our community.
So, Geronimo,
Yes, sir.
how would someone contact you if they're looking for employment?
Sure. Well, we're happy to speak to anyone in the community. If you just call our phone, 324-5987, and speak to our assistant, Tina Hickman. We're always happy to do informational interviews. We're not the human resources department, but we're always happy to visit with people and find out what their interest is, what their talents are, and refer them to our human resources department. There's two ways to really go there. One is to do it online at seton.org/careers. It talks about what job opportunities there are. And then secondly, we have a human resources office that's here in this Seton Administrative Office building here, located at 1345 Philomena Street. So really, most of the jobs are, well, all of the jobs are posted online, and that's how individuals can find out about those opportunities.
Let's suppose I'm someone with a disability and I heard that Seton was a great place to work, but I don't really know what kind of job I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Would I talk to you about that?
You can talk to us, and we can find out what kind of area or gifts and talents you have, and then refer you to the right person in our recruiting office. We have recruiters that have responsibility for different areas, whether they be a particular site, like let's say Brackenridge, or whether it's a particular service line, sort of like diagnostic and therapeutics in that particular area. So we have individuals who serve throughout the entire healthcare system here at Seton that with different various disabilities, and we're always engaged and looking towards focusing on the gifts and talents that they might contribute to Seton.
I understand that there's a program that's available through Seton for the younger generation.
Yes.
People that may or may not have disabilities that are younger, looking for like a career path that Seton can also help with. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ones that I would that I probably want to focus on. One is not necessarily a career path, but I should mention it, which is anyone interested in a health career job might consider going to what's called the mock surgery tour that's done by our clinical education center. I can't remember the exact month, but it's an annual event that happens that's open to the entire community, where anyone from the community can come to the clinical education center, and you go through a tour, and you can tell how you can see how people how our doctors do surgery, and there's different tools there that you can use to, for example, using a scalp and cutting into an orange to see what it feels like to actually use a scalpel, and that's really focused on inspiring the next generation of healthcare professionals. In terms of opportunities at the hospital itself, we have over 400 teen opportunities this summer for individuals between the ages of 16, actually all the way up to 24 for undergraduate, where we have either paid or unpaid, mostly unpaid, teen volunteer opportunities at different various sites that students can apply to get into those programs. Those deadlines, I think, have passed for this summer, but it's good to know that those are things that happen. Mostly they're all, sure, information is sent out through the schools, different schools, whether they be public or private schools, but those opportunities are there for teens to volunteer at our healthcare system. There's also two other programs. One is a high school transition program, and another is an adult employment program that we combine here together called Project Search, which is a best practice for hiring individuals with developmental disabilities. And we have a spectrum all the way from very low functioning individuals to very high functioning individuals. We have to date had 42 internship opportunities in the last 4 years, and I'm happy to report that just even last week we had our 24th hire at Seton.
Right.
So that's more than half of them have been hired here at Seton, and my understanding about the statistics is another third have been hired in the community, because what's really interesting to us is that as one of the largest private employers, if you have a 1-year non-paid internship with us, for example the Project Search program, and you show that resume to other employers in Central Texas, and their thinking is, well, if Seton Healthcare Family, the largest private employer, one of the largest private employers in Central Texas, can provide job opportunities and see the gifts and talents and strengths of this individual, then we're going to give them an opportunity in our particular place of employment. What's really exciting for us is that in July of this year, the week of July 23rd, the city of Austin will be hosting the National Project Search Conference here in Austin, Texas. 38 states, 4 countries, and over 500 participants will be coming to Central Texas to look at this best practice that we unfortunately are the only employer in Texas so far. We want to encourage other employers to use this model, but so far we're the only one. And to have them see these individuals and look at them with their strengths, their abilities, and what they're accomplishing. I could go on and on, but I think their stories are even more powerful. Stories like Daniel, who was our first hire, who does surgical sets for surgeons. And he has been with us for almost 3.5 years, and he has 2 errors in those surgical sets.
Wow,
and
amazing.
What surgeon doesn't want their surgical set to be just perfect when they're having surgery on you? And you know, we have other individuals like Walter, who's checking lab results and making sure that the patient identification number and the patient name are the same, and if they're not, he stops the process and makes sure that the right individual understands and knows. So therefore, we're not giving the wrong information around cancer, for example, cancer results, to the wrong person that either has it or does not. So just a real big, I mean, those are just 2 short stories of the impact that these students are having in our healthcare system.
Sounds like a great way to focus on, you know, as you mentioned before, you know, the talents, the things that people can actually do that might get overlooked in a normal office desk job, you know, that might, you know, just qualify them for a job to be maybe sweep the floors or clean the blackboards in a school, but to really focus on using their talents and their abilities for a job that's so important and so vital to the attention to detail, as you mentioned in those 2 cases. What awesome stories.
It is, and you know, the what's even just as impactful is what's really interesting to me is the stories or emails we get from the parents who say, you know, because of this, I'm going to retire in the city of Austin and I'm going to volunteer my time at sea.
Wow.
Or the parents of kids who happen to be disabled, and they say, I went to the hospital today and it was so wonderful to see somebody like my son or daughter working here. It gave them hope that what they're doing to help their son or daughter will make sure that they have a good quality of life, so that maybe someday they'll come work here.
Well, that's a real positive impact, being able to show the community what you've been able to do instead of just talking about it. Now, it sounds like this volunteer program is really a fast track to employment. You've employed half of the people that were...
In Project Search, it is it's not a volunteer program, it's a non-paid internship, 1-year non-paid internship where they go into 3 different rotations.
Okay, can you explain the difference between non-paid internship and volunteer?
Sure, absolutely. And that's a great question because that gets asked all the time. Volunteer, we have a Office of Volunteer Services at each of our hospital sites. And they are the ones that manage individuals that want to volunteer at the hospital and help out. Whether it might be, I don't know, dropping off emails for the patient for communication. It might be making sure that the wheelchairs are all brought back to the same place. It might be providing some support to some of our staff, if you will. But these are volunteer efforts. Those volunteer efforts are not necessarily made to lead to a job or job opportunities, if you will. Those are really giving back from the community. And we have teens, undergraduate students, we have retired individuals that come and they contribute their time, whether it's 2 hours, 4 hours, or longer, and they come and they volunteer for us. On the other hand, we have these internships, non-paid and paid internships, mostly non-paid internships, where a student is in an academic institution, whether it be high school or whether it be college or a university, and they're getting academic credit or they're getting high school credit for participating in the internship here at Seton. So for example, we're doing one with the Ann Richards School for Young Women Leaders. So they're coming in for a week this summer to be exposed to healthcare, get inspired to become healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses. There's all these technical jobs that require 2 years of technical training or community college, that are high demand, high paying jobs that they might be interested in. So these internships are both for academic credit. Sometimes they're not for academic credit, but a lot of times the internships are more about the student coming from a college or university to gain some kind of experience, exposure, or academic credit, and they're not getting paid to do that work. And then, however, we do have some paid internships, like our summer undergraduate internship program, and that really has been interesting in terms of a pathway to work, because we've had an average in the last couple of years of 10 paid summer undergraduate interns that are chosen through an open, competitive, equal employment opportunity process. And it's been really interesting because we've had on average one of those students end up getting offered a job at the end of the summer because they've done such an outstanding job of wherever they may be at Seton Healthcare Family.
It just sounds like a super way for someone with a disability to get their foot in the door for employment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's got to look good on the resume to say that they had an internship with Seton.
It sounds like that's why Seton is very successful today. And we thank you for all your efforts, and on behalf of all those people and people that are receiving service from Seton, we thank you, and thank you so much for being on the Gina Day Show.
Well, thank you.
Thanks
It's a
for your
start.
time.
It's a start. Thank you.
And once again, you can check out www.seton.org/careers to find out more about careers here at the Seton Healthcare family.
No, Dave, a lot of people have misconceptions about what people with disabilities are like in the workplace. In fact, there's a Mr. Clueless we know about. And let's take a look in on Mr. Clueless and see.
Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of Mr. Cluelesses out there that have this same thought, but let's
check them out.
let's watch this.
Come in. You must be my 3 p.m. appointment, Mr. Clueless.
Yes, I am. Thanks for seeing me. I'm here to get a disability.
I beg your pardon?
A disability. You are a disability specialist, and I'm in the market for a disability.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You come highly recommended.
All right. Would you like a temporary or a permanent disability? They both come with a free parking space.
I suppose I could maybe start with a temporary disability, and then if it goes well, upgrade to a permanent disability?
Very well, temporary it is. Now, would you like a visible or a non-visible disability?
I'm not familiar with non-visible disabilities.
Well, a non-visible disability would be something that's not obvious, say something like epilepsy or heart conditions or diabetes.
Now that probably wouldn't work. What's the point of having a disability if it's non-visible? I mean, isn't it harder to get pity that way?
Pity? Is that it, Mr. Clueless? You want a disability to get pity?
No, of course not. I'm interested in the work benefits.
The work benefits?
Sure, you know, come in late, leave early, take time off whenever need be. First I considered becoming a soccer mom for the same reason, but it's probably a bigger change than I'm willing to make, if you know what I mean.
Well, I can see you're acquainted with several stereotypes.
Oh, stereotypes are very convenient. They save time.
Mr. Clueless, I think you've got the wrong idea. People with disabilities, according to a study by DuPont, are more punctual, work longer, and have fewer sick days than their non-disabled counterparts.
Oh, I'm probably too lazy for that. Could you recommend another career path, something with high pay and low accountability, low responsibility?
Have you considered Congress?
Congress, Gene?
Yeah. Well, I might be a little bit sarcastic there. I don't know, but we had a lot of fun with that. We hope you had a lot of fun with our show, and there's always so much more to learn in our page summary about the show. So check that out on the web, www.thegeneanddaveshow. And we've got shows coming up on music and all sorts of things. So
Yeah, so keep tuning in, keep checking out the website, and we really thank you for watching. And just remember, just because you have a disability, it doesn't mean that you're unable to work. So go out there and find that job of your dreams.
so long now.